I gotta put this back now because this is the interpretive dance portion of this set. No, actually, I don't do interpretive dance. That violates the terms of my role. So, anyway, I've been doing stand-up comedy for about a year now. And I used to work in communications, but I kind of had to get out of that because the pay is really low. And the competition is super intense, and almost nobody really gets ahead. So I switched to stand-up comedy. Solve all those problems. But, you know, and stand-up is it's scary, I have found, for a number of reasons. One is that you have to be able to think on your feet, and I'm not always good at that. You know, just when I started going into this and taking lessons, I was driving, and I'm kind of cruising along in my little way, and this guy pulls up next to me, and he's like, "Yo, man, you're driving like my 80-year-old mother." So, me, pick on the comeback. I'm like, "Oh yeah, so's your mother. Drive like you're 8 shits." Yeah, so, and that's kind of part of that's scary, and being able to think on your feet is really important, because especially when you just decide to quit your $50,000 a year job with benefits and do stand-up for nothing. As I discovered when I ran into somebody from high school just after I made this decision. Yeah. Now, what is the question that I always ask you when you meet someone from high school? You know what it is. What is it?
It's what are you doing now?
What are you doing now, right? So I decided to kind of strike first. And of course, and see, when you ask that question, no matter what you're up to, the shit they're doing is better than yours. Like, they're never going to say, well, I actually stimulate gay porn stars before they go on set. I'm sorry. Like, it's never that. And with this guy, he's like, well, I'm the portfolio manager and I handled $10 billion last year, some shit like that. And then it's kind of my turn, and I'm like, gotta come up with something, can't say another word, kind of cloudologist. I study the size of clouds, the shape of clouds, the weight of clouds. Like that sucker's a cumulonimbus. That one on the horizon, you wouldn't know this is a cumulocrimpet. So, anyway, but stand-up is scary, and one of the things that's kind of scary about stand-up is the open mics. Have you ever been to an open mic? The clubs will have these nights where you can just show up, you sign up, get in line, get on stage. Anybody can do it. And the open mics are kind of like gay bars, because they're almost all men, most of whom will never know the touch of a woman. And they're scary. They really are. They're scary because people feel a lot more free to heckle at an open mic. And hecklers are my absolute worst nightmare. There's one right now. I'm so afraid of hecklers, more than anything, except maybe starring in a Lifetime movie. And the second time I was ever on stage was at an open mic, and there's hecklers in the crowd. And I can hear this from backstage. So I'm petrified, right? My heart's pounding and I'm sweating. I'm afraid of failure. It was kind of like the first time that I had sex. Except it wasn't a parking lot. And no one paid me afterward. So it really wasn't like that at all. But anyway, so I get out there, and it turns out I'm the only comedian who doesn't get heckled, right? But I wind up feeling kind of strangely disappointed, It was like being that altar boy, that one altar boy the priest didn't like. And I'm in my head, I'm like, hey, I suck too. Which is probably what that altar boy thought. So, let me just say it right out. I do not approve of heckling. I think it's mean, I think it's wrong. But there was one time I saw it was just richly deserved. But before I talk shit about another comedian, on stage, you have to agree to keep this between like the 40 of us, right? Great, okay. So I'm at an open mic, right? And this comedian comes out, and he opens his set with, "I hate women." See, I told you it was like a gay bar. "I hate women." And then he goes on to bitch for 10 minutes about how he doesn't get laid. I'm kind of like, you think that might have something to do with your sales pitch, buddy? I don't know. So, and he really did hate women, because he singles out this woman in the front. And he's like, "What color are your panties? When did you last have your period?" Yeah, he's a dick. And she's just getting redder and redder. She's not appreciating this at all, but he won't let up. So then he's like, "I'll bet you're a virgin. I hate that. You know why I hate virgins?" And without missing a beat, this poor woman cracks back, "Because in 20 years you'll probably still be one." Oh yeah, she said it. So the women in the audience, they are loving it, right? And they kind of like, gather around and form the Yaya sisterhood. And the men in the room, we know that the time has come to put down our heads and shut our traps, right? But of course the comedian, he's not getting this, right? He's going back at them, they're going back at him, and of course they can drown him out even though he has a mic. So finally he's like, "Oh yeah, well, for 2 cents, I'd give up all women forever." If you've ever wondered how many thrown pennies it would take to knock a man unconscious, 27. They're still picking them out of the stage. So, I've been heckled, and it's tough, but one reason it's tough is because sometimes these hecklers are pretty damn funny. There was one time I was at this little kind of deal. There was only 3 comedians, and the other 2 comedians were female. So I'm like coming up with this great, I got my great opening line when I get on stage. So I get up there and I'm like, "Oh, I'm so excited to be here because ever since I started stand-up comedy, I'd always hoped to be the manliest comic on the ticket." And this guy in the front's like, "Yeah, keep hoping, buddy." Yeah, another time I was performing in front of this kind of angry Republican straight white guy crowd, and yeah, you see what's coming here. And it was, first of all, what the hell do straight white guys have to be angry about? I mean, seriously, let's review this. They have a way easier time getting a job than black people, right? They earn more money than women. And if they're Republican, they can still fuck gay guys and vote against same-sex marriage at the same time. So, I don't want to hear complaints from them. But anyway, so I'm in front of this crowd, and, I think I'm going along well, and they wanted to trip me up. In the middle of my set, he's like, "Are you gay?" So I'm kind of like, I'm still new at it, so I'm frozen in time. And I'm like, "Well, I'm not sucking cock right this moment."